I'll never forget the way that night began, because even before the door opened, before a single word was spoken, I already knew something was about to change. You know that strange electricity that lingers in the air? The kind that isn't loud, but quiet, heavy, almost waiting? That's what I felt, like a whisper before thunder, like something about to unfold that I couldn't stop, even if I wanted to. It was supposed to be nothing special. A casual evening. My husband, Daniel, had invited 2 of his old college friends over for dinner. I had heard about them countless times, Ethan and Ryan, their adventures, their bond, the stories my husband always told with that glow of nostalgia. And though I'd never met them, it felt as if their presence had already been stitched into the fabric of our marriage. But that evening, something felt different. I stood in front of the mirror, brushing a loose strand of hair behind my ear. My reflection didn't look back at me like a stranger, but like a woman I hadn't seen in years. Not just Daniel's wife. Not just the hostess. But me, alive, waiting, still capable of being noticed. When the doorbell rang, my heart skipped in a way that had nothing to do with nerves about dinner being perfect. Daniel opened the door with his usual warmth, his voice filling the entryway with laughter as he greeted them. I held back a moment, breathing in, steadying myself. And then I stepped into the room. Ethan stood first. He was tall, calm, with the kind of presence that didn't rush toward you but instead wrapped around you like a steady current. His eyes didn't just glance, they noticed. When he smiled, it wasn't polite, it was deliberate, like he was seeing past what most people stop at. "You must be Maria," he said, his voice warm and sure. The way he said my name lingered, as if he had spoken to more than just the letters of it. Ryan, on the other hand, was different. He was fire where Ethan was water. Mischief sparkled in his expression, not arrogant but playful, curious. His energy filled the space quickly, like he wanted to uncover things people usually keep hidden, but without pushing too hard. "Finally," he said with an easy grin, "we get to meet the famous Maria who managed to steal Daniel's heart." I smiled politely, but inside, something stirred. The evening moved forward with food, laughter, and stories that carried me into memories that weren't mine. Daniel was radiant, glowing in the presence of his friends. I played the role I was supposed to play, the wife, the hostess, the listener. But beneath it all, a quieter rhythm pulsed. Ethan's glances, steady, quiet, lasted a fraction longer than they should have. Ryan's teasing words brushed too close to places I didn't usually let anyone near. Nothing was spoken, nothing crossed any line, but the weight of what wasn't said was heavier than the laughter filling the room. When I stood to clear the dishes, I felt their eyes follow me. And without realizing it, I moved slower, more deliberate, as though every step was somehow being measured. Ryan offered to help. In the kitchen, our fingers brushed over a spoon, an accident, nothing more. But the spark it left lasted far longer than it should have. "You're graceful," Ryan said softly, almost too casually, as if he wanted the words to slip past unnoticed. But I noticed. And instead of answering, I stayed silent, because words felt dangerous. Later, when Daniel stepped outside to take a call, Ethan sat beside me. Not close enough to raise suspicion, but close enough that his presence shifted the air between us. His voice was low, almost like he hadn't meant to speak aloud. "It's rare," he said, his eyes steady on mine, "to meet someone who carries peace in their presence." "You do." Something inside me tightened, not out of fear, but recognition. He wasn't complimenting me. He was naming something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. When Daniel returned, the air returned to normal. But nothing inside me did. That night, when they left, Ryan leaned in just enough for only me to hear. "You made tonight feel like a memory already." I smiled politely, but my pulse betrayed me. In the days that followed, messages began appearing. Innocent, at least on the surface. Ryan asked for the recipe from dinner, or about the music I had played. Ethan asked about books, about solitude, about what gave me calm. And once I answered, I couldn't stop. Ethan was grounding, gentle, like water washing over stones. Ryan was fire, teasing, bright, alive. They never crossed a line, but I began living between two tides. One afternoon, I looked out the window and saw Ryan walking by. He saw me. I saw him. No wave, no smile. Just seeing. And it undid me more than words ever could. A week later, Ethan dropped off a book he thought I'd like. Daniel wasn't home. We sat, same as before, but this time the silence between us wasn't polite. It was alive. You seem different, he said, studying me carefully. How? I asked. Like you've started hearing yourself again. That night, I couldn't sleep. Because for the first time in a long time, I realized he was right. And then Ryan's message came. Sometimes I wonder if you feel it too. I didn't answer. But I didn't delete it either. When Daniel suggested another dinner, I agreed. But I knew, deep down, this one wouldn't be the same. The moment they arrived, I felt it. Ethan's gaze lingered longer. Ryan's smile was softer now, less playful, almost careful. In the kitchen, Ryan followed me again. This time, the silence between us pulsed like a heartbeat. I almost didn't come tonight, he said quietly. Why not? Because every time I see you, it gets harder to pretend I don't. He paused, his voice dropping lower. Don't feel more than I should. I couldn't answer, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I did. We returned to the others, Daniel cheerful, Ethan watchful, Ryan restless with words unsaid. Later, when Daniel drifted to sleep on the couch, Ryan asked softly, what would you do if time paused, just for a moment, and you were allowed to feel freely? The silence after his question was louder than any answer I could have given. That night, Ethan messaged me. Sometimes silence is louder than words. And without thinking, I replied, then what do you hear in ours? His answer came instantly. Everything. Since then, nothing has happened. But everything has changed. They never touched me. They never asked me to choose. But they saw me. And once you've been seen, truly seen, it's impossible to go back to being invisible.